Hi everyone, and welcome to our next episode with Peter Hanja. I'm so excited that he's joining us because the last time we were talking about how to prepare for a job change. And today we are going to shift gears a bit and talk about how to stand out. So Peter is a senior headhunter. He's been talking to lots of candidates, to lots of hiring managers, and he will be able to share very valuable insights about how to stand out when you would like to change your job. So, Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you much for welcoming, and I'm really happy to be here again.
Awesome. Cool. So last time we were talking about how to prepare for a job change, right? And lots of people who are watching us or listening on a podcast, they may be preparing for a job change. Now they have a bit more clarity about what it takes to go through a career transition. But if we take it step by step, really, and we start with how to stand out on LinkedIn, right? Practically, you as a headhunter, you go through dozens, if not hundreds of profiles every day, right? So what makes you choose some profiles over the others when you decide who to reach out to?
Great question. There is a number of things which come into my mind, hoping to provide you an answer that gives you a good breakdown of what are the main criteria or the surroundings of a mapping or sourcing exercise. A good example today, I was mapping a target zone of candidates, maybe for 4 or 5 hours, and looking at dozens of profiles. And recruiters have 6 to 10 seconds average to decide whether they want to spend more on that profile or not. So it's really, really critical for a good level of match candidate to stand out immediately at the front and show the highlights, show the heavy weapons at the start as early as possible, to generate as much attention as possible, to demonstrate that they should be on the shortlist, and to win more time of the recruiter's attention, to dig deeper and evaluate the candidate on a more detailed level. So I would really, really suggest to everyone to think a lot about what the most important and relevant points, matching points or attributes are for that particular company and that particular job. Maybe it sounds like a lot of homework, but that is what makes you stand out.
Mm-hmm. So can you elaborate on it a bit further? Like, what do you mean to prepare for the next job?
So when you want to pursue a certain company or a certain job, a particular job and a particular company, so you have exact data available. If you do your homework, you can find out quite a lot of detail and color about the company as well as that particular opportunity. And look for relevant points and highlights from your career, ideally in similar environments. So when you have been successful in a certain part of company's life, if the opportunity is within a company which is up against similar set of challenges as you've been ideally successfully in the past, scream about it, highlight it, make noise about it. Make it your top 3, top 5 heavy points based on which they should decide to proceed with you. And if it's a certain type of challenge you successfully dealt with in the past, put it up there. Make that your decoration, make that your ribbon of success. Make it visible at the forefront. So when a recruiter who knows about where the company is in its life, what challenges are they up against, what they want to solve with that particular hire, they look for a certain set of criteria based on which they evaluate, that's my guy or lady or that's my candidate. This candidate should be on a top 5, which I'm going to screen, interview in depth, and submit to the hiring manager. That's what I would say.
So as an example, if you get a requirement from a client to look for a CTO to join a fintech company. How would you go about finding a prospective candidate, a suitable candidate to join the fintech company in the role of the CTO, assuming that there are 90,000 CTOs in Europe, another 100,000 in the United States. So how do you go about figuring out who to reach out to? And on this note, also, what candidates can do to stand out in such a fierce competition?
I will go in a little bit more granular and high definition than just a CTO and a fintech company. Of course, when you do your debrief well with your client, you have a lot more detail and a lot more palette of data available based on which you evaluate a relevance. And I would look at what's the ultimate goal of the role, what kind of mileage in what relevant area of business these people should have under their belt, what tech stack they should be comfortable and fluent with. If it's a people management role, what's the size of the team? What's the seniority of the people in the team? How far is the company in terms of technology compared with their competition? That's the criteria which I would evaluate, and then look for similar patterns in candidate profiles. If they have been operating in a similar environment, facing similar challenges, operating in a similar tech stack environment. So they know the ins and outs of those areas. They can swim comfortably in those areas, and they can operate on the technological edge or horizon of those areas and come up with new ideas and build new solutions which no one came up with so far.
Okay, so are these things that people should mention somehow on their profiles on LinkedIn, for example?
They should scream about it as loud as possible. As I said earlier, they have 6 to 10 seconds to win another 30, 40 seconds of the recruiter's attention. So I would put the big guns out there early on the top of the profile, bullet points. Again, these top 3, top 5 heavy hitting points, they can change from opportunity to opportunity, from company to company. So make sure as a candidate, that you do your homework up front about the role, about the company. Gather and accumulate as much information and detail as possible. Talk to your friends, to your network. I bet you whether a friend of yours, a direct friend or ex-colleague or somebody else's friend is there or been there or knows something about that company, and they can give you a kind of information which is not publicly available. That'll help you put together the picture about the company and what are the best key points from your background to build a bridge between you and that opportunity and strike their attention and make you stand out of whatever the pool of the candidates is they look at.
So can we come up with a list of elements or attributes that every LinkedIn profile of a CTO, for example, should include? As an example, it could be the team size. Like, as a CTO, I managed a team of 40 people. Right? This could be one. Like, are there some other aspects that a CTO should mention on their profile?
Oh, definitely. There is a lot. As I said, these can change from company to company, but there is like the usual or the most typical ones, which if you pick 5 to 8, maybe 10 if they are really, really impactful, set of highlights or career peaks or celebrations of success, like really, really solid milestones in your career, which are marking a big achievement, whether it's financial or massive technological leap or solving a big challenge the company may have had at the time. Anything that is somehow strongly memorable from your career, regardless of its length. Put them up there at the front. If you're not happy how to word them or how to wrap them, find yourself a solid recruiter who knows what is impactful, and they'll help you to polish it to a stage where it makes the highest possible impact or hit ratio from a success standpoint.
Yeah. And how important are some other aspects of the LinkedIn profile for you as a headhunter? So let's say the profile photo or the banner. Like, do you pay attention to this at all?
This is very individual, but people who spend a lot of time sourcing and they're looking at dozens or even hundreds of profiles per given time, they're really looking for, their eyes are trained to isolate the noise from relevant data.
Mm-hmm.
And they really look at the beyond the header, which should include the most impactful information from the background of the candidate. Recruiters typically look at companies they worked at, how close or far are they from the company they recruit for, length of tenures. Typically short tenures are questionable, and people usually ask questions why. Technical information as size of teams, or when I joined, team was 5. In 4 years, the team was 24. That's a clear sign of success that they were successful. They hired more people. They have made a lot of money or saved a lot of money, and they generated the attention of the leadership or owner of the company, and them allowing for more budget and growth.
Okay. So as a headhunter, if you look for the CTO as an example, you go to LinkedIn, you type in the search bar CTO, fintech, maybe some other keywords, because the pool
Maybe
is
the tech stack.
Exactly. Maybe. So still there are dozens of thousands of profiles for you to go through. So how do you narrow down to a meaningful list of profiles?
What is a meaningful size of profiles? It's a meaningful size or meaningful pool of profiles is something you can physically manage in a given time. Usually what also filters or narrows down your list is geographical data or fluency in a certain language if necessary, or if the job requires travel, or if it's office-based or 100% remote, or it's a job that covers a number of offices. So these criteria may help you filter down or narrow down the list of potential candidates to a more manageable group, which is like, I don't know, several dozens, maybe 80, maybe 100 profiles of a long list is more than sufficient, from which you can then extract the top 10, 15, maybe 20 profiles. Depends how much of profiles you have to go through and reach out to make a meaningful shortlist.
Mm-hmm. So how many profiles would you consider as a meaningful shortlist to reach out to?
Good question. May change, but in my practice, 20, 25 plus, maybe 30 profiles. If you reach out to them, you have a number of dropouts, you have a number of not interested ones. So usually that number gives you, 5 to 10 people who are interested and curious and worthy of a screening call. And from that, you can, based on the number of, if you explore and find any showstoppers, this number may decrease again. You want to end up with 2, 3, maybe 4 people. At the same time, you don't want to overload the hiring manager. They have limited time to screen through people. So you want to give them the cream, the handful of highest matching candidates. And that is, I would say, logistically, physically manageable.
Mm-hmm. So it's 25 people per week or per day, per month?
Per pipeline.
Per pipeline.
Per pipeline. So I'm looking for a certain, to cover a certain seat, which has a certain location, criteria, languages, seniority, salary, you name it. You go through a long list of, I don't know how many dozens. Again, the long list, if you're lucky to have a big long list, great. Sometimes you don't have a long list. Sometimes that long list is long as 2, 3 dozens of profiles. Sometimes your long list is, sometimes your pool of candidates is 13 people in the certain geography. So that makes your job a little bit more difficult. But if you are lucky to operate in a skill area which provides you these numbers, like 80 to 100 for a long list, maybe 20, 25, 30 for a short list that you reach out to, that can produce maybe half of that, smaller, bigger half of that will reply you with a somewhat positive of an answer or interest.
Mm-hmm.
Bear in mind when people reply you on your reach out on LinkedIn, that is already a sign of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So they're curious. They, no matter what their current situation is at the current job, they're curious. For something on their side triggered the idea, hey, let's talk to them, let's find out more. And that opens them up to a possibility of a career move already.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it's up to you to manage the conversation in a way that pulls the candidate towards you. At the same time, candidate is looking for opportunities to pull yourself towards him, the opportunity or the job specifics. And as they get in closer and closer, it may end up with a hire.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, especially from the candidate standpoint. Now, a candidate may not realize that in order to be on the shortlist among those 25 people, you have to go through hundreds or probably thousands of people in a certain geography who meet certain criteria. And it's just so hard to be on the shortlist, right? Now when there are so many LinkedIn profiles out there.
The availability of data is massive these days. I agree.
Yeah. Just crazy if you think about it. And also, what are the implications for candidates? I mean, it just shows how important it is to have the profile properly established with the aspects clearly outlined, as you mentioned, with regards to the team size and the results and a nice photo and the banner and experience described.
Yeah, the availability of data and the wide range of channels, how to get yourself closer to an opportunity is massive. And the battle is equal from both ends. So candidates have a massive amounts of data to gather to make themselves look and present themselves as well as possible and highlight themselves as much as possible. The game is the same from the other end. So the companies and the recruiters have a massive range of data available to them and criteria based on which they can specialization within specialization is really the mantra these days. So candidates have a massive amounts of data and opportunities available to them to stand out. Why not utilize it?
This also reminds me a question from one of the CTOs I've been in touch with. He mentioned that in the recent 6 months or so, he hasn't been receiving any opportunities from headhunters. So he was asking me what's going on, whether companies are no longer hiring, or is something wrong with his profile, or is there anything else he should be looking at? So without you knowing any details, I mean, how would you suggest someone debugs what's going on if he or she is not receiving any messages from headhunters like you?
Yeah, I would definitely look at the big data first, the general climate in that particular industry vertical where that candidate is operating or targeting for the career move. The climate in the market may determine how many opportunities are there, how many available or vacant seats are out there for someone of that caliber. But there are always vacant seats out there, and the companies are always looking. Whether the weather in the industry is sunny or rainy or windy, there are always jobs out there, and there are always opportunities for people like that to show up and demonstrate their skills and basically stand out of whatever the competition they're up against. So it doesn't really matter if it's 20 jobs out there for somebody like that or 120. It's always about making sure you appear among those top 5, and you get the opportunity to demonstrate your relevance or suitability for the job.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so now once someone is on your shortlist, you reach out to the prospect, the candidate is interested in speaking with you, so you arrange a call. How the candidate can get you interested in him or her? I mean, in order to pass the screening call with you and get to the next round? What it takes for the candidate to pass the step with you?
There are a number of things that the candidate can influence or make a positive impact on. Again, I would say preparation, homework, be present, be knowledgeable about where they're going into, pull out the strongest attributes that they have and why they should be the candidate for that particular job, and attract early. The fact that the candidate has done their homework, learn as much as possible about the company, is a strong sign of interest.
Mm-hmm.
The attitude, the readiness, and show in a healthy way that you really want that opportunity, that you really like the opportunity, and why do you feel you are the strongest match for that opportunity. A summary of these things is basically generating gravitas on the weight of scales. And if the recruiter puts down the phone after speaking to 5, 6, maybe 10 candidates, and they will all have a fantastic set of success behind them, and a lot of mileage in a similar, and then they will all be in an ideal match area. But guess who will be standing out? Hey, that candidate, he really wanted it, or she really wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
He was asking the right things. He knew the right set of information about that company, where they at. They went a little bit further. They spoke to their friends. They also know the type of information is not widely available publicly on digital data or in the news flow on Google. So they really went the furthest from all those highly matching candidates. So for that candidate somehow stands out with their attitude, with their positive, maybe with the humor. And, quite often the decision are based on a lot of other things than what's on a CV or what kind of success or medals or Grand Prix this candidate has.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the candidate who is maybe somebody would call it an underdog with not so many medals on the wall, but hey, that candidate shown a serious attitude and a serious presence, and that candidate would really work hard to be successful in that. Quite often companies decide for those candidates instead of the champions.
Yeah. This also reminds me one candidate who I recall from last year, and he was really desperate. He was desperately looking for a job for a year almost. And I think a lot of hiring managers could kind of sense this, and it repelled them off of him. What would be your advice for someone who has been looking for a job, was not very successful, like how to avoid being seen as a very desperate job seeker?
Interesting enough, I was in those shoes myself a few years ago, and I had the opportunity to experience it and feel it from the inside, what I have known of before. And it really may put some people off. If the neediness, or I don't want to call it desperation, but the really candidates which are pushed into the corner, and they are really happy to have the opportunity to finally speak somebody and have an opportunity to get the job, and they have been really put off by a lot of no's and ghosting and all those bad things the job seekers experience these days, or even in the past, that may end up on the surface and is seen and heard and felt, especially by recruiters which have a really highly calibrated and very sensible sensors to a lot of the underground movement or under the surface signals. And what I would advise, it is really difficult. You have to be in that person's shoes to really feel the gravity of the situation, how much weight they have on their shoulders, and how not to let any of that appear in your voice, in your words, in your tonality, and so on. I would say just be as cool as it can be, as you can squeeze out of yourself in whatever the situation around you. Try to be neutral, and I would say equalize with the tonality of the recruiter, because that will make you on the same level. It will allow you to be a little bit focused on something else and be a little bit further away from whatever the weight of your situation is. And that will allow you to come across as less of whatever you don't want to come across as. Yeah. It sounds very easy. I know it's not easy. I have been there myself. And first half of being successful in not showing what you don't want to show is to realize it. And if you're not 100% sure, ask somebody around you for a role play. Friend, family member. Try to role play 3, 4, 5 times. Try to role play the first 15, 20 seconds of the interviews. Generic questions, something very silly, doesn't matter. Most important is that the other side doesn't feel what you don't want them to feel. Do it with somebody who you're completely open with, people who really, really support you and friends with you, and they can spot these little differences and make them aware, hey, I don't want to sound like this. Let's do a 32, 3, 5, 30-second exercises. You're the recruiter, I'm a candidate. Let's set 3, 4 basic questions and tell me what kind of energy you feel from me. And if it's radiant, positive, neutral, or doesn't carry any of the information which your mind is full of, happy days, you can go for the interview and you will minimize the opportunity for something to escape, which you don't really want.
Well, based on what you mentioned, it almost feels like you never should be in this position, right? Because as soon as you are, then it's too hard to get out of this desperate mode. And I think a lot of people underestimate what it will be like once this happens. So it's better to kind of proactively be always kind of on the job market, so to speak, right? And look for opportunities and be open to speaking to headhunters, because once something happens, you are out of the job, then it is too late to start building the network and reaching out, because you may be already in this desperate mode, and then it's really hard to dig out of this hole.
One way how to deal with this with the maximum chance of success is to really, really have a great recruiter on your boat. People who really realize the potential impact of fine details. People who really have in their interest your success, and they'll help you calibrate even the tiniest details of your way of presenting yourself. And they will help you with a lot more things than just a CV or a couple of hints and tips in a 30-second preparation call before the interview. So have someone like that on your side makes greatly improve your odds of generating a lot more interest on the hiring manager's end than the rest of the candidates.
And speaking of role plays, do you think people do enough of role plays?
I don't know whether they do it at all. And they're definitely not doing it enough. That's the 2 things I can really answer 400%, because we have done a few exercises like this in a recent past with a few candidates, up to an extent that a number of role plays happened. So the prep was really, in terms of time investment, on the same scale as the time dedicated to interviews themselves. Basically, all of those candidates got either to the finals. Most of them got the job.
Wow.
And if they didn't get the job, they ended up so high on the rankings that the company hired them in a couple of weeks or months for something else, just because of how well they came across. They created a job for themselves in a bad economic climate, or in the low of the economic cycle.
Wow, that's actually so inspiring, right? And I know your kids also, they play a professional sport, so they also have a coach, right?
Definitely. So if you have people like these on your side, they can definitely improve your game to a stage where you are able to compete with the rest of the top athletes that you are up against in your particular game.
And it's kind of crazy if you think about it, like a lot of the senior executives, VPs, directors, CTOs, I mean, they go through the hiring process without anyone helping them to go through the process, right? It's kind of interesting. It's probably a bit risky, especially given how much is in stake with a new job or sign-on bonus or annual bonuses.
It's interesting how much a single individual can have an impact on the organization and how much effort or lack of it the high-end executives are putting into properly and correctly interview and evaluate candidates. There's a lot of subjective stuff. There is a lot of bias. There is a lot of difficult, unmeasurable things based on which they evaluate candidates. And then considering the context of how much of an impact that candidate can have on the organization, or on the other hand, how much they can mess up. What's the highest possible damage if we don't do it right, or what's the highest possible success if we do it right? It really makes your eyebrows, rise and think.
Yeah.
Because if you look at how much effort the candidates put into preparing their game when they're bidding for the job, the company should put an equal effort into evaluating, okay, what is creating the need for this person? What do we need to achieve for approving this seat? What kind of challenges we have inside here? What we want this person to have experience with or ideally successfully solving in the past. And, knowing what you want and don't want can massively increase the quality of your game while doing the interviews as an organization. Same on the other end, knowing what you want and don't want makes you appear a lot clearer, makes you talk a lot more solid and come across as more rounded with the stronger contours in the eyes of the company. And it's much easier for them to connect you with that seat instead of the other, I don't know how many candidates.
Yeah. Well, this is actually a nice bridge to the second section. What we wanted to talk about is how to prepare for interviews with hiring managers, right? And one part is, as you say, to have more clarity about what is important for you as a candidate, what you want, what you don't want, but also what to expect from hiring managers' interviews. And for the executive roles, hiring managers may include CEOs, CFOs, CMOs, CSOs, VPs, right? So how can someone prepare for such interviews?
If you really, really want to get that job, you should prepare your social media presentation, your CV, the way you present yourself to various people before various interviews, to make sure that you appear correctly in front of every set of or pair of eyes or pair of ears that you are facing. There are differences and little nuances, little things that you can unveil in front of these specific people that may appear particular to them, but for some others along the interview process, those details might not be that relevant or important, or even some may even overlook them or dismiss them completely. If you're talking to a hiring manager, which is going to be your direct manager, direct supplier, they're looking for a set of criteria which is helping them to evaluate, okay, how is it going to be for me to live with that person every day? Do I like their language? Do I like their the words they use? Do I like their energy? Because they will be spending 8, 10, 12 hours together every day, whether directly or indirectly. So they're looking at a set of criteria which might be slightly different than a department manager who is not going to be facing that candidate every day. And they're looking for just big bulk, end of month, end of quarter results. And they're not really into the daily rock and roll. So the way people look at and evaluate candidates, different people along the interviews stages, they may look at different set of criteria, which helps them establishing, okay, is that candidate for me or not really? If you have an interview with a CFO or chief revenue officer, they're looking at your ability to deliver results, deliver them consistently, looking for similar patterns of success in the past, in a similar environment or battlefield, as they say. And what is important for them might not be important for your direct manager. So everybody looks at you from a different angle. Everybody's looking to tick their own boxes.
I see. So what are some of the core areas? I mean, everyone talks about the profits, the bottom line. So is this something that also the stakeholders look at and evaluate candidates accordingly?
Yes, and they all add their own specific piece that they're hoping to be present. As I said earlier, your direct manager is living with you every day. They're looking at more personal, cultural fit, dynamic voice, tonality, language, the way how you are constructive, how you solve problems, how you react under pressure. When the so-called pain limit, how much you can endure in a heated situation, as opposed to the department manager or director, they may be more result focused. They will be looking at, as you mentioned earlier, the bottom side, the bottom line result. How much per month, how much of this, how much of that per quarter or per year. Okay, box ticked. They don't have the capacity to handle the level of detail that your direct manager has. For example, again, the CFO who is ultimately going to sign off on your offer, no matter how big, they will be looking at, okay, are we getting enough return on investment? Okay, we're going to invest whatever sum of money, whatever budget into this person, into this seat. That person is going to cost us this as a primary cost or as a secondary cost, this much. So the total cost per year is this much. Are we getting enough potentially? Are we getting enough return on our investment from hiring this person? How likely are we going to be successful? What are the risks of hiring this person? Was this person successful already in a similar? Is it something new for them? Is it a high risk, low risk? How long is that going to take for this person to settle in and become productive? These are the questions, for example, that the person signing off on a financial end is looking at. So they will be looking to answer their set of questions. Yeah.
And it's also very interesting insight for candidates who are about to prepare for such an interview, right? They should also think this through and be able to sell themselves to these hiring managers, right? To the CFO, probably, based on what you say, they should speak in those financial terms, like, hey, these are the projects I was responsible for in the past. They saved this amount of money, or we increased the profits, right? Are you thinking along these lines?
Absolutely. Every question or every topic that you may end up discussing along the way, every question will end up in one of the group of 3 questions. Is this making me money? Is this saving me money? Is this saving me hassle? So if you will successfully able to answer either of these questions, if individually, then in a strong manner, or in a less strong manner, more of them, 2 or 3 of them, that's maybe the way to come across when you're talking to high-end executives who don't have so much time and they're focusing on the really the most relevant stuff. And the high-end execs are usually looking for answers to these 3 questions if they are going to decide whether to hire you or not. And that's, is this candidate going to make me money? Is this candidate going to save me money? Or is this candidate going to save us hassle? Or combination of either of those. And preparing yourself to an interview with a specific person, whether that person is focusing on finance, or that person is focusing on technology, or it's a sales leader, or if it's a chief of, or maybe the owner of the company, they all have their top 3, top 5 set of criteria based on which they will decide for you or against you. And preparing yourself and have this information ready and show it at the start shows initiative, shows you are able to think their shoes, shows you awareness, special awareness of the situation and ability to read the surroundings. And if you proactively provide the data, exactly the data that they want to hear, without them needing to asking you and drilling deep to get that information out of you, guess what they will think? They will think, okay, this person thinks in my shoes. They think the same way. They after the same goal as me. Why is that person not here yet?
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So essentially, the candidate should enter the discussion with the question in mind: what is important for you, dear CFO, dear CMO, dear CSO? What is important for you? And how can I fulfill those goals, right? Like, how can I, as a candidate, after I join the company, how can I help you? And now fill in the blanks, right? Earn more money, save money, or reduce the hassle.
This is exactly what, if you, as a candidate, come with this mindset to the interview, without even knowing exactly, because sometimes you don't know, sometimes it's difficult to read the situations, but if you ask these questions, and ask your counterpart, ask your interviewer, hey, I came here prepared as much as I can, but the situation and this context, these situations where we're currently in, is a little bit difficult for me to read. What is the most critical data? What are you looking for in me to be convinced that this is the person, this is the candidate for me? And the fact that you're asking this at the front is showing already a sign for that interviewer that you have the right mindset, you have the right frequency, that you're thinking and the right wavelength as them. And you're asking them basically, okay, how would you, what does the situation look like when me and you sit down after 12 months and we will, open a champagne, celebrate, high five, and all that.
Yeah.
What are the key criteria for that situation? And they will tell you.
And this is not easy, right? For candidates, especially for some of the CTOs who I've been speaking with, like they haven't been interviewing for 5, 10, 15 years. I recall one person who hasn't been looking for a job for 22 years. He just went from one job to the other through referrals. And suddenly you need to enter these discussions, ask these very smart questions and think about different stakeholders, right? I mean, that's not easy. I mean, it's super powerful, but it also requires some practice. So it just comes back to the role plays, as you were suggesting a while ago, right?
Part of preparation is also, if you don't know, bring somebody closer to yourself who knows. Make sure these people are on your boat, and they helping you, to win your game. If you don't know, just join your forces with somebody who does this every day. Same way as you want to sell your house, second time in your life. Guess what? There are people out there who are selling 3, 4, 5 houses a day.
Yeah,
they know it a little bit better than you. So use some of their brains. Use their advice. Invest whatever it takes from your end, whether it's time, homework, all the resources, and to improve your game to a stage where you're so highly competitive that no one can beat you.
Yeah. Well, this is a wonderful advice to wrap it up with today. And we were talking for, like half an hour, 45 minutes. I don't know how time flies. I could listen to you for the next 3 hours and I still would have lots of follow-up questions.
Thank you very much.
But let's keep some of them for the next time. So next time we can dive deeper to how to thrive in some of those jobs, especially when the market is tough, as we've been hearing from some candidates. So thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I'm looking for the next one.
Me too. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.